Hello! Today I'm going to show you how to load the bobbin and thread this Husqvarna sewing machine. I've had this machine for about a year and a half. I bought it second hand. I don't actually know how old it is. I'm guessing sort of 80s, but I don't know. So it's a Husqvarna Viking 5710. I bought it because I've got a few vintage machines which stitch one straight stitch very well, very neatly, but they don't do anything else. This machine has a lot of features that more modern machines have, but it also doesn't have any electronics, which I don't like on a sewing machine, and I don't like having screens and things like that. So it's got manual dials and it's got as many features as I need. There's some things on it that I don't use, like the buttonhole options and things like that. I've never even tried them because I always sew those by hand. But I've used a lot of it, and I've used it a lot. So I've got to know it so I can show you at least the basics. So in today's video, I'll show you how to wind the bobbin on, how to load up the thread at the top, and how to get started using it. The first thing you must do is, if you've acquired one of these second-hand or any second-hand sewing machine, or perhaps inherited one or something like that, is to have the electrics checked, because obviously you're going to be plugging it into the mains electricity, you're going to be touching it, and if it's been left unused it could be quite dangerous. So make sure that it's checked by a competent person before you start to use it. That said, once you're satisfied that it's safe, then you can get to know your machine and enjoy using it. And I've found that this machine is very robust, and I'm expecting it to give me many years of use. It didn't cost me very much. It was a lot less than a new machine would have been. I like the metal case. I like the ruggedness of it, and having said that, it's extremely mobile because the pedal fits in here, and this is the plate for here, and that will go vertically, and the case goes round it, and it's a very compact machine. So I can recommend it if you can get hold of one second hand. I hope you enjoy watching. So this dial here will alter the thread tension, and it's usefully got a dot there between 5 and 6, and that's where I normally have it. You won't need to change that very often. This alters the stitch length, and I normally have that between 2 and 3. That works for me for most uses. And this is the stitch that you can change. So you've got straight stitch, zigzag stitch. There's also a setting for doing buttonholes here as well, and then these numbers on it indicate the stitch length you'll need to use for those. Just one thing to be sure that you do is, when you're switching between the different stitches, make sure that you press in here. That, as well as turning, that also has a button there, so press that in order to change to different stitches, otherwise you can actually damage it inside. It's quite a tough machine. I actually didn't realise you had to do that, and I was turning this without pressing that in, and I actually locked the gears up, and we had to take it apart and sort them out, but it was still fine after that. So here's the wheel, which you can manually move up and down the needle, so that you can free your work if you need to, and move the needle up and down. Now I'll be threading up the machine with this blue thread to make it easier to see, but when I'm showing you the route that the thread takes through the machine, I'm actually going to use this piece of red cord because it shows up better. So you'd start by getting your top thread, so this will be your reel of cotton or polyester, and put it onto the top spool here. Ensure that the thread's coming out of the back of the spool. So if you imagine that this is the thread coming out of the back of the spool here, you come across here, and there's a little clip at the back, so you just put it through the clip there. When it's just ordinary thread, it just pulls through. You don't have to thread it through. And then Then at the top of the machine here, there's these two openings here. You just put the thread into the right hand side of it like that, and you bring it down. Then you bring it down to here on the right hand side, and you come back up, and then you go through this loop right to left like that. Now, because that's cord, not cotton, it's not going down into the loop, but it will do if it's just normal cotton. I'm just showing you the route to take. Then you come down here, and then under here there's a little loop that you just go through, and again, it's because when it's cotton, you'll just pull it through, and then you can thread the needle. So I'll now switch to the correct thread and show you that again, and actually thread the needle. There are actually two spools on this machine, here and here. I think that's if you want to use a twin needle and stitch with two threads, but I'm just going to use this one, so you won't be able to see the thread, but that just clips through there like that when it's thread. Going through the right hand side of here, down the bottom, up, and then through here, right to left. Can you see how easy it is? And then we're coming down here, and under here, I'll show you a close-up of this in a minute. There's a little clip here. Again, you just put the thread behind it and it will go in. So you can see that the thread's coming through this little clip here. And then on this machine, the hole in the needle, when you put the needle in, is front to back. Whenever you're threading a needle, always get a pair of sharp scissors and cut the end off sharply at an angle. And you might think that doesn't make a difference, but it does. So there it is threaded. Put the end of the thread, you need quite a bit, put the end of the thread through here, like this. So now the top thread is threaded, the next step will be to show you how to actually load up a bobbin. So in case you don't know, I'm just going to explain everything because I'm assuming that you might not know anything about sewing machines. The way the sewing machine works is it combines the thread from the top with the thread from the bottom, and the thread from the bottom is in a bobbin. Now on the Husqvarna, bobbins are like this with one hole in, and so if you don't have one, you need to purchase ones which say they're suitable for Husqvarna sewing machines. They're like this. Not all bobbins are the same, so you need to get the right one. So threading, if you're going to load up the bobbin ready for use, is similar to if you're going to thread it up and actually sew with the machine. So you put the thread on in the same way, you go through the back clip, and then you just come down the left hand side and anchor the thread there. So you go across there and just down the left hand side, so that the thread's coming out here. And actually thread the thread through the hole. I actually never do that. I just hold it in my fingers and I wind it around the bobbin a few times like this. I do all my bobbins like this, just how I do it. On this one, you need to have the thread coming out of the bottom of the bobbin when you put it in the winder, and I'll show you that more close up now. Here's where you put the bobbin to wind it on. So make sure that your thread comes out of the bottom of the bobbin as you put it in. Okay, so you put the bobbin on there, thread coming out the bottom, bring this down, and then there's a clip here, and you just clip in there like that, and then take up the tension there. Press the pedal as though you're going to sew on the machine, and the bobbin will wind up. Now, some machines stop automatically when the bobbin's full. Now this one doesn't. I don't know if that's because it's an old machine and that bit isn't working, or whether it just doesn't. You have to keep an eye on it, so just make sure it doesn't go over the edge of the bobbin. thread between the two. So cut the thread between the two, remove the bobbin, put the arm back up, and now the bobbin is full. So the next step is to put the bobbin in the bobbin holder. So as you can see, it's got a place for the bobbin to go, and it's got a slit down there, which is where the thread goes through. So if you've got the bobbin holder this way, so the slit is pointing like that. So you hold the bobbin so that the thread's coming towards you, and put it in like that, and then the thread goes almost back on itself up through the slit like that and comes out the top like that. So hold the bobbin in place, and this is a shot of under the needle where the bobbin holder goes. So keeping the bobbin in that position and making sure that the thread is free, and now the thread is coming up here, put the bobbin in here like this until it clicks, and here's your thread, here's your bottom thread. So we'll re-thread the top as we did at the beginning. So the bottom bobbin is in place. Just need to re-thread the top thread as we did at the beginning. Again, make sure that the thread's coming out the back of the reel. Clip it around the back here, down the right hand side of this part here, down, up, and then right to left through that loop, and then clip under here, and then we'll just re-thread the needle. Right, so now you've got a top thread that's running freely and a bottom one that's running freely. Now we will need a bit of a run off here, but probably that's a bit too much. So what you've got now is a thread coming out of the top through the needle and a thread coming out of the bottom. So what you're going to need to do is combine these, because that's the way the sewing machine is going to make the stitch. It's going to work to combine the top and the bottom and produce your stitch. So you need to get your bottom thread up to the top of the machine through here. And the way you do that is you get your top thread, put your hand on it, get your bottom thread, put your hand on it like that, and then the wheel that I showed you before that you can use to turn to free motion the needle, you draw that slowly towards you, and you're mimicking making a stitch. So you go down, the needle goes down, and the way the mechanism works inside the machine is it pulls up the thread from the bottom bobbin. So it's going to pull up the thread, okay? So then what you do is you get your top thread and you pull it slightly gently. And what you're doing is you're effectively using your top thread to pull up a loop from the bottom. You're effectively looping round and grasping the bottom thread. So then you just do that and pull them both through. So now you've got the top thread where it was originally, and the bottom thread is now coming up through the teeth at the bottom and is now underneath the plate here, ready to stitch. So you can close that up now. So get your two threads and put them through the foot like this and have them dangling over the back. You need about 6 inches, 8 inches sort of run off thread at the back. Then I can put this back in and I can put the plate on and we're ready to sew. So I'll show you that again. When you've got your hand over the two threads, you need to hold them in position but don't press them so firmly that they can't move. And if the thread doesn't come up straight away from beneath, just continue to turn the wheel towards you and keep the needle moving until a thread comes up, and as soon as you see it, then pull it through as I showed you. Don't expect to be able to do this the first time if you've never done it before. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you can do it, you'll be doing it without thinking about it. And then when you've got your both threads up, I don't think I showed it very clearly before, but they both need to go through the middle of the foot like that and out the back. And then when you're putting your fabric in, it's going to go between the two. So once the machine is threaded up, put the material underneath the foot, and because you've got one thread coming out of the bottom and one thread coming out of the top, you'll actually have one thread above the fabric and one thread below the fabric. You put the foot down, there's a lever here, and then you will press the pedal in order to make the machine go. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So if you want to change the zigzag stitch, press this in, select the stitch, so here's the pedal. Obviously it'll be resting on the floor. You just use it like a car accelerator really, and the further down you press it with your toe, you've got your heel to toe, the faster the machine will go. So I recommend that you start with a scrap piece of fabric and just practice using it until you feel that you've got good practice at using it. Here's the back of the machine where you've got the light switch and the electric socket. Here's where you plug the socket in here, and here's the light switch. Another thing to mention is the manual. When I got my machine, it didn't have one, so I was able to download this off the internet. I think I had to pay a few pounds for it and print it off, and it has actually got lots of useful information in it. I did actually find some of the diagrams a bit confusing. For instance, how to load up put the bobbin in the bobbin winder. I couldn't see how to do that on the picture. Might be because it was printed off, but might have been clearer on the original. But I sort of did that by trial and error. So if you can manage to download that, that might be useful. Another thing to say is what needle to use. Needle sizes go like this: 70 stroke 10, 80 stroke 12, 90 stroke 14. So 80 stroke 12 is just two ways of saying the same number. Then the 80 and the 12 don't refer to different dimensions of the needle. They're just referring to that needle, and it's a stroke because it's like saying centimetres, inches. I hope that makes sense. So 80-12 would be an average needle for, say, sewing just a normal piece of cotton. I now always buy 90-14 because I find they break less, and I don't generally sew with really fine fabrics, so I just buy, I do buy these Schmetz ones because I find they're the best for me, but I'm not advertising them or anything. But I do get that size, and obviously you get that size in any needle. That's what I've got in here now. They also have a very, very slightly larger eye, which makes it very slightly to thread the needle. So that's what I'm recommending to use with this. I hope that's helped you to get to know your machine a little bit better, and I hope it's been useful. This is the first tutorial I've done like this, so any feedback would be appreciated. Thanks for watching.